Steve Bannon is a friend of Israel, and he is a friend of Judaism. Ladies and gentlemen, Steve Bannon.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Congressman Zeldin. At 5 o'clock on the evening of November 8th, 2016, Jared Kushner came down into the kind of war room we had set up with the data center that we were watching the data come in from the vote. We got the early exit polls. We were even in, I think, Iowa and Ohio. We were losing by huge margins in virtually every other state. Now, when I had come onto the campaign on August 14th, we helped refine the president's message. By the way, we had the finest candidate since Ronald Reagan and one of the greatest public speakers, if not best political orator, since William Jennings Bryan and Donald J. Trump. In refining the message that President Trump, or candidate Trump at the time, had talked about, we said, destroy the physical caliphate of ISIS, designate the Muslim Brotherhood as a terrorist organization, decertify and renegotiate the Iran deal, and move the embassy to Jerusalem. We were down at that time about 16 points. We were losing in every, I guess, significant battleground state by double digits. So on the evening of the 8th, for one short moment, Jared and I looked at each other and said, we thought we had this. To 100% degree of metaphysical certitude, we thought we had it. The mainstream media got those exit polls and were, the opposition party over here were high-fiving and dancing around the newsrooms. They were looking at the biggest landslide in American political history. At 9:15, the Detroit Free Press called the state of Michigan for Hillary Clinton. At 10:56, the Associated Press called Ohio for Donald J. Trump. At 10:50, they called the state of Florida for Donald J. Trump. At 11:11, they called the state of North Carolina for Donald J. Trump. At 12:02 a.m. on the 9th, they called the state of Iowa for Donald J. Trump. And at 12:15 at night, the opposition party, Detroit Free Press, put the state of Michigan back in the neutral column. It was at that moment we knew, with our data, that Donald J. Trump, the strongest supporter of Israel since Ronald Reagan, was going to be the President of the United States. At 1:35, Pennsylvania fell. At 2:29, Wisconsin fell. And at 2:30, the Associated Press designated Donald J. Trump as President-elect of the United States. That victory would not have come without one other person besides Donald Trump, Sheldon Adelson. It is not about resources. It's about counsel, guidance, and wisdom. You got to remember, folks, we were down by double digits almost the entire time. And when we closed the gap and finally got within shouting distance, Billy Bush weekend happened. And you know what most of the establishment Republicans do when things get tough. They cut and they run. Sheldon Adelson didn't cut and run. Sheldon Adelson had Donald Trump's back. Sheldon Adelson offered guidance and counsel and wisdom of how to get through it. He was there for Donald Trump about how to comport oneself and how to dig down deep. And it was his guidance and his wisdom that helped get us through. Shortly after noon, on the 20th of January of 2017, President Trump said, we will reinforce old alliances and form new ones and unite the civilized world against radical Islamic terrorism. Which we will eradicate completely from the face of the earth. President Trump, when he wrote those words in mid-December, knew what he was saying because it was talked about internally a lot. Which we will eradicate completely from the face of the earth. President Trump knew that 100 years from now, that inaugural speech will be looked at and studied. And look what he did. In the first 9 or 10 months of his administration, he destroyed the physical caliphate of ISIS. People forget, and the opposition party will never tell you, because the geniuses on Morning Joe every morning tell you, oh, President Trump's just following through on Barack Obama's plan. Yeah, I don't remember ISIS being eradicated on his watch. In 2014, ISIS had 8 million people under their reign. They had oil revenues, tax revenues, wheat fields. It was one of the largest, most productive countries in the Middle East. And in the first 9 months of President Trump's administration, it's eradicated. The second thing he did was to call the Arab and Muslim Summit. And what was the purpose of that? Number one, to talk about we are going to stop the games that everybody's playing on financing radical Islamic terrorism in the West, in Europe, in the United States. We're going to work with you, but it's your responsibility, work with you to modernize Islam, to moderate Islam. And we're going to start to work together to stop the expansion of Iran, not just in the Middle East, but throughout the rest of the world. And look at the results. Several weeks later, in an area that's not known for bold action by its participants, correct? There's very little black and white there. There's very little bold action. Look what the United Arab Emirates and Saudi Arabia did at Qatar. The reason is, at Qatar, you got the financing of Hamas, the financing of the Muslim Brotherhood, and with their buddies in Iran, the financing of Hezbollah. Finally, somebody took a stand. And then when they said, oh, the House of Saudi Arabia is just as bad, look at the action they've taken in the last couple of weeks. Look what MBS, look what a brave young man is doing in his own country. But as the storm clouds are arising in the Middle East, and they're arising right now, I don't think we've ever had a more dangerous time, Mort, as we've had, as we have right now. We're leading an insurgency movement against the Republican establishment and against the permanent political class in Washington, D.C. And I understand here in this room that doesn't sit well with everybody, and I don't expect it to. But if I can say one thing about ZOA and about the work that Mort Klein and everybody does in Washington, is you're unapologetic about the defense of the State of Israel. And there are so many games being played by the establishment, right? They've lowered the bar of what that's supposed to be. You get double dealt all the time. That's how you get the Iran deal. And that's how we still allow the American government to finance people that have blood on their hands of innocent Jewish civilians. Until Taylor Force is passed, until the Iran deal is totally decertified, torn up, and renegotiated, the establishment is just tapping along the Jewish community in this country and our partners in Israel. It is time for us to act. And I believe the only way to act is not through moderation. I am not a moderate. I'm a fighter. And that's why I'm proud to stand with the State of Israel. That's why I'm proud to be a Christian Zionist. That's why I'm proud to be a partner to one of the greatest nations on earth and the foundation of the Judeo-Christian West. We have a long, dark valley to go through, folks. Iran, Turkey, Hezbollah, Hamas, the Muslim Brotherhood. The Middle East right now is on a knife's edge. It's going to take strong leadership. The pressure President Trump is under in Washington, D.C., as the radical left tries to nullify, and they're trying to nullify, the 2016 election. Great minds like Professor Dershowitz and others, I think, would agree with me. President Trump needs our back. And President Trump needs our back because we're a nation at war. And this war is only going to be won if we bind together and work as partners. I'm proud to be here tonight. I'm honored. I want to thank you, and I'm proud to be a Christian Zionist. Thank you.